Good morning, folks, and welcome back to Wishwell Farms for the start of another week. On today's agenda, I'm hoping to pull up some drip tape out in our vegetable fields and do some more greenhouse cleanup, maybe harvest some soybeans. But first on the list today is to crate up some of this spaghetti squash and get it into the box trucks for Saturday farmers markets. And if you're wondering why in the world would I be messing with this on a Monday morning, it's because Wednesday morning, my wife and I are heading towards New England in our RV. So I'm trying to get as much done today and tomorrow as possible to make things easier on my son Gavin and Emma for this Saturday. And we'll probably go ahead and pick our cauliflower tomorrow and get it in the cooler so it's ready for Saturday farmers markets as well. We'll probably do a little bit of greenhouse cleanup and maybe some soybean harvesting with my brother. And it looks like it's going to be another gorgeous day on the farm. Thanks for joining me. All right, we're out here in the vegetable field where the raised beds are at. We're gonna try to pull up some of this drip tape. We already removed our dripper fittings at the other end, so there's gonna be nothing holding this drip tape down except dirt. So normally I'll have 2 or 3 people in the white wagon pulling in 2 to 3 rows at a time. But this year, since it's just me and Emma, we're gonna grab the end of each row. We're gonna bring it to the wagon and we're gonna tie it to the wagon, and then we're gonna drive all the way to the other side and completely remove the drip tapes from these raised beds. And then it should be all loose, hanging, just laying on top of the ground, and then we'll each grab like 4 rows at a time and pull it into the wagon for disposal. All right, we have 4 drip lines attached to 2 different spots on the back of this white wagon. When I've tried it this way in the past, it's always snagged or caught on something, like a giant weed that maybe got bush hogged off, and it's like a little stump. The drip tape gets caught on that. You see it starting to pull tight, and then it snaps. And you got to stop and walk several hundred feet to reattach it and get it untangled. So we'll see how this goes. A little bit of trial and error. Definitely easier than pulling it up 2 or 3 at a time. All right, so far this is working pretty good. Emma's just about got all 8 pulled in. I was gonna hop back here and help her pull 4 of them in, but while she's finishing those, let's see how many snapped. We were pulling 8, just this block here of our first cantaloupe planting. It looks like 2 of them snapped. And I think they just snapped like a 50 or 100 feet back. So as soon as we get these 6 pulled in, we'll drive back through the field and I'll have her pull these 2 in. Hopefully it's not too far back. One of them might have snapped way back there at the big pile of vines. That's why I split the plastic and weeds with my plastic lifter center coulter, so that doesn't happen, but from time to time it still does. So here's the one that got snagged on this big pile of vines, and we can't get it out. We'll have to dig through here and find out what's caught on. There it is. Yeah, see, that's like 100 pounds of vines and plastic material. And this is what normally happens when we try to do this, but at least it only happened on 1 row. 8 rows down, and now we're getting ready to start on this 9-row block of watermelon. We'll see how that goes. And then we have 6 rows of our very first planting of zucchini and cucumbers, and that's all I'll be able to do today. I have not split the plastic on the spaghetti and butternut squash or any of the plastic in the back half of the field. And this is how much drip tape you get from 1 8-row block, 450 feet long. It's quite a bit. All right, here we go, ready to pull the next block of 9. We're gonna try just a little bit of a different method this time. Emma's gonna stay in the back and walk as the drip tape's getting pulled out of the soil. That way, if it does get bound up a bit on anything, she can kind of pull it out of the ground while I continue to drive. So far, so good. We had one break back there. We just reattached it and kept on going. Oh, I just didn't go quite far enough to get this one out, did I? Well, that was pretty successful. We had 2 that snapped on us. I went ahead and drove to the other end of the field, turned around, came back. Now we just got to pull it all into the wagon. I've been asked before if I reuse this. Hopefully you can see after this process that it's impossible on a large scale to reuse this. It needs to be wound up on a nice spool to be able to relay under the plastic mulch next season, and that's just impossible. There's so many nicks, cracks, and cuts in this plastic drip tape. There's no way you want to reuse it. Unfortunately, once and done. All right, we're back in the greenhouse. Emma's gonna work on blowing the debris out of this area here between the buckets. The buckets aren't being removed this year. I touched on this in the last video or a couple videos back. We only dump the perlite every other year. This year we're just gonna top the buckets off. But before we can rake and sweep all the debris up out in these aisleways, we're gonna take a leaf blower down through here and blow out any debris we see in or around the buckets down by the radiant floor heat. Speaking of radiant floor heat, that is what I am working on now. I'm going to drain the water out of this here boiler, get it all flushed out with air so nothing can freeze over the winter. And then next I'll work on cleaning up this area here, all the weeds back in here, scrubbing these tanks out so we can put this greenhouse to bed for winter. So the way I remove the water from this boiler is I got my air compressor in here. I shut off this valve here and we shoot air into the line. You can see the needle jumping up on the gauge as I pressurize it. And then I open this valve up so it's forcing the air through the entire boiler, through the entire system, and then it comes back around this way and out this hose. Now here. So you can watch the water shoot out as I put more air in it. I'll just keep shooting more air in here until no more water's coming out. It's just air bubbles. And then I'll remove this set screw right here and a little drain screw right there. I've cracked these manifolds before because I didn't drain the water out and it got, 10 below zero. There was water in here and these cracked. We just about have all the water out because now there's a bunch of air bubbles shooting out with the water. We're getting close. As soon as I know all the water's out, I will break these 4 bolts here so there's no water that can crack inside of this pump. And then I'll remove the water line here as well. That's the feed line into the boiler. There it comes. So you can see it's kind of a cloudy yellowish color. Yeah, oh, there's the stuff. It just wasn't here yet. That's what we want to get out of these lines. And it's still coming out of this first one too. My goodness. We definitely want to get all that junk out of there before we cap these off and pressurize them. And I don't smell the oxidate yet. So if I can't smell the oxidate, that means it's just pushing out the water that was remaining in the line from summer. But as soon as I smell the oxidate in the water, I know that it's flushed all the old junk out. It's probably getting close. Are they clearing up a little bit at all?
A little bit. It's still pretty yellow.
Yeah. Now I can smell the oxidate. So we know we got new water coming through these lines finally. All right, I'm running the pump on irrigation number 1. That is this greenhouse. And I'm just making sure they don't all have to be flowing because some of them are going to be plugged up. But I want to pump some of this water that has oxidate in it, force it through the system, and then I'll turn it off and it'll just let it set. And hopefully any mineral fertilizer deposits that are in these little woodpecker drippers will break up over winter. And we hope that they all work in February when I fire things back up in here. All right, we're gonna turn it back off because the water cleared up. We'll refill this tank and do greenhouse number 3 next. All right, so I got a good chunk of the greenhouse winterization done. Filters have been removed. They're in the bottom of the tank. I've broken the line here, removed the tank fill pressure switches, and got the line broke there, down here, so this line can drain through the pump. Right here, the water fill from the hydrant. Right here by the little pressure tank going to the water heater, we got 2 lines broke there. The pump has all been loosened and drained, so there's no water, standing water anywhere in there. And we have the tank fill unhooked and getting ready to blow air through the feed line over here to blow out this line to make sure there's no cracks underground, because that line just goes underground to here and it's only buried like 6 inches deep. So a good hard freeze for a couple days below 0 will crack it, could crack it. I removed the drain plug from this boiler manifold. That's a piece of cast, it will crack. And this drain plug right there. So the boiler is completely winterized. While I've been working on all the irrigation, Emma has been sweeping. You can see all these piles down through here, all swept up, ready to throw in the wheelbarrow. Still got these 3 aisles here. And then we have a stack of buckets in the back. They have to be placed back into their spot back there at the back of the greenhouse. So the only thing left to do is to blow air through the main feed lines leading to each of the other 3 greenhouses, and then everything in all of our greenhouses will be completely winterized and ready for a hard freeze. So I got Emma on the phone and she's watching the feed line up in one of the other greenhouses, and I'm blowing air into the feed line here to force all the water out. Anything coming yet? Okay, man, that took a while. It's like 100 feet of feed line to get up there. All right, we have 2 of the 4 greenhouses done. Just charged up the air compressor again. It takes a lot of air. All right, all the drip tape removal went well today, and I'm back out here. It's the end of the day, ready to lift some plastic mulch with our Challenger 1800 made by Rainflow Irrigation. I showed this in a prior video, but I will go over it again real quick for those of you who may be new to my channel or maybe didn't see that video. This is how we're going to raise this plastic up out of the ground. So this is 4-foot wide plastic, but there's about 6 inches of it buried on either side. So you only have about 30 inches of it exposed on top of the raised bed. This machine will quickly raise that up and make it kind of just lay up on top of the dirt, and then we can pull it into a flatbed wagon to dispose of it. So we have depth gauge wheels here that we can adjust. Everything's fully adjustable on here. We can raise and lower the depth gauge wheels. These disc blades for cutting vines mainly, but they also remove a little bit of that dirt near the buried edge. These just have standard plowshares on the front that'll go down underground about 6 or 8 inches under the bed and lift it up, and it knocks off the buried edge, so the plastic can just come back through here, and this will kind of help shake off the dirt and debris. They can be a problem sometimes. I've seen the plastic stick to them from time to time, and it wants to ride with the machine. So if they're up too high, that tends to happen. So sometimes I will lower them. So we have a lot of adjustments here on these. These are shear bolts in case you hit a big rock. They do make a spring-loaded one. It's a little more expensive, and when I bought this, I was trying to do it on the cheap. So I've only sheared a bolt maybe once or twice in the last 20 years, so it's not that big of a deal, even in our rocky soils. You can see these disc blades are spring-loaded. And there's a spot for a center coulter. I just used that today to split the plastic down the center on some of the biodegradable plastic, so the drip tape removal will be easier. All right, that's enough talk. Let's get to work, and I'll show you how this machine lifts this plastic. Get off and take a look at this plastic. Let's see how good of a job it's doing. On this first row, it was not a very good job. It tore right there and then got drug 100 feet. That's not good, because then it usually piles up into a big heavy pile full of dirt. This is what I like to see. Here's the buried edge. See how it's just basically laying on top of the dirt now? It removed all the dirt and kind of lifted this sheet of plastic up off the ground, or from being buried in the ground. So this is going to be very easy to lift up into the wagon. So this is a 4-foot wide piece of black conventional plastic mulch. This is what it looks like before it's been lifted. Big difference. So I just have these 3 rows right here. 6 rows of bell peppers and 3 rows of tomatoes on over that way, and the rest of the field is biodegradable. No plastic removal necessary on the biodegradable, thank goodness. Wow, that was a beautiful October sunset. I don't mind working late when it's like this out, but it's really not that late. It's only 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as you probably noticed, I went from lifting plastic directly into spraying, and that is because I forgot that I needed to spray some weeds on that pepper and tomato ground before I lifted plastic. I completely forgot about it, and I went straight out there to lift plastic, hoping to get it done before dark. There's only like 15 or 16 rows to lift. And I did 2 rows, maybe, yeah, 3 rows where I was demonstrating how it worked. And then it just dawned on me, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this spraying done, because it has been so windy for the last 3 days that I haven't been able to spray. I made a beeline to the other farm, unhooked the plastic lifter, put on the sprayer, mixed up 5 gallons of herbicide, and quickly made my way over here and got it all sprayed. just in the nick of time because I could not see anymore. I don't normally show the spraying on our farm or talk about it much because there's so many people out there that are misinformed about proper herbicide use. It is a very important tool for farmers, and it's very difficult to farm without it. We try to use minimal amounts and only spray when we have to, but sometimes there are weeds that get out of control that have to be sprayed. So that was one of the things I was doing tonight, and that'll help prepare that area for having a clean start next season. Alrighty folks, this is where we're wrapping this one up. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see y'all again real soon down the farm.